I want to welcome you again to another edition of When Ebenezer Talks. I am Palmer Bunting, the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, and I'm excited tonight to be on location at the new Metompkin Baptist Church with Pastor Ricardo Poulson, First Lady Minister Zatoria Poulson. Thank y'all so much for finding time to just talk to me.
Thanks for having us.
I want to say this before we get started. I have followed the ministry of Pastor Ricardo Poulson from day one. And I am so very proud of what you are doing, what both of y'all are doing, and the work that you've done and the change and how God has transformed this church under your leadership. So let's get started. Pastor Poulson, and we're not going to talk about Cowboys tonight.
We're not going to talk about the 49ers.
We're not going to talk about the Cowboys, not going to talk about the 49ers.
Right.
You know, we're still praying for you, you know, and everything.
Thank you for your prayer.
How long have you been in ministry, preaching ministry?
We was called to the gospel ministry in the year 2000, actually.
Okay.
So we've been preaching the gospel since the year 2000.
Okay.
Going on 16 years here pastoring this year. So we've been at it a while.
Wow.
At it a while.
Wow. And Minister Poulson, how long have you been preaching?
I've been preaching for 6 years, I believe now. 6 years.
Okay. Okay. What have you seen? What has been let me answer this way. What has been the biggest challenge? Because we're going to talk a lot tonight about team ministry, husband and wife ministering together, working together in ministry. And so a lot of my questions are going to be devoted to both of you.
Okay.
And, you know, both of you can answer in your own way. What do you think has been your biggest challenge? Coming here from down the road and that style of worship to coming to Metompkin before it became New Metompkin, what would you say has been your biggest challenge? He's looking at you. Go first.
I would say the biggest challenge, I think, even though we're still on the shore, for me, Accomack and Northampton, it was a challenge. The people, I wasn't too familiar with a lot of the families. You know, Northampton County, pretty much everyone knows everybody.
That's true.
We grew up with them, or our family knew. So up here, we had to pretty much be welcomed in, get to know the families, get to know the members, because we were kind of like outsiders coming in. He was from Accomack, so I think he knew a few people. But for me, it was just being accepted and being welcomed and to becoming a part of the family. So that was like a challenge for me. I didn't know many people.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Ricardo,
Well, for me, I think one of the biggest challenges early on in the ministry was the style of worship.
Okay.
You know, the style of worship was really a challenge because, you know, coming from a church where, you know, we kind of knew what to expect each week as far as, you know, having high times in worship.
Yeah.
And then coming to a church where the climate was a lot different. But knowing we had to come here every week, you know, because now we're called to this place. So one of the conversations I had very honestly with my wife was, you know, since we have to go there every week, we have to pray that God make this a place where we want to be. Because at the end of the day, you know, we have to come here because he called us here.
Yeah.
But, you know, the worship has to shift.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we started praying that God would, you know, give us a vision how to shift the worship and how to shift the worshipers. And
so that opens me up to my next question. Besides praying and asking God, what did you all begin to do? Because Zatoria, you've been preaching 6 years, but I've been up here every year just about.
Right.
And I've seen you continuously work with your husband, side by side, arm in arm, not ahead, not behind, but right there beside him. So I'm going to ask this question to both of you again.
Okay.
What, other than prayer, what did you do to change the feel to make it more worshipful? What did you do?
One of the things was a lot of the things that were in place that were like methodical or traditional.
Okay. Traditional is a dirty word, by the way.
So he changed the order of service, and he welcomed more so the move of the Holy Spirit versus, you know, we all know the Lord's Prayer. Okay. But we don't have to say it every service. Okay. So, you know, it's just things that he implemented, things he took out, and it was more spirit-led versus this is how we've always done it. This is how we want it. And so I saw a big shift when that happened. Once he rearranged things and put things in place. For example, when you have praise and what is it called? Testimony service. For example, when we first came, it was like, the deacons and the deaconess in front singing and testimony service, but he transitioned to praise and worship service where, the atmosphere would be more set, where we would have worship and praise versus complaints and, So I think that was one of the main things because it started with worship and it started on a high note. And then instead of that, we had like I started exhorting the services in the morning to set the atmosphere. So I do believe that's one of the major things, just taking things out and putting other things in.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And she knew my heart, and she knew what we wanted for the congregation. So who better to have beside you, leading the people in worship before I preached than her. And so we started teaching on worship. We started letting them know, even in Bible study, the direction we wanted to go in worship and why, and what is expected of them as worshipers and what is expected in worship. And so Lady Poulson would lead it, and and get there. Even she was on the praise team.
Yeah.
And so she was in those ministries, to let them know, even as the praise team, what was expected. It was to the point where I'm right there alongside of them. Actually, remember when we first got here?
I was
on praise team as well.
Okay.
See, a lot of people don't know that. When we first got here, I was across the front with them.
Okay.
I was the Kurt Franklin. I did no singing. I just was.
You were the hype man.
I was through.
You were the hype man.
And they knew that. And I told them I'm the hype man.
Okay.
And where now I can stay in the back before it's time to come out. I was right out here when no one was in worship but the praise team, waiting for the people to come in. Right here in the middle, leading. And I did that for a long time until we felt as though it could go to another step. And so we just had to roll up our sleeves from day one and really work at it.
Do you think what your husband has initiated for you to do to help bring this church to where it is, would you say that helped you understand your calling?
It definitely did. I would say I think he saw in me a lot of things before I saw it.
Okay.
So definitely when what he would, ask me to do, it sometimes reluctantly, but I did it because it's a hard line when it's your husband and your pastor. So I know it's a time where he is my pastor, and I'll fight what he tells me to do. No different than anyone in the pews. I would do it. I would do it. So I think he was pushing me because he saw potential, and he saw the call, and I do believe that actually helped to push me with him using me in different places in the ministry.
Okay.
Yeah, I do believe that. I strongly believe that.
You all just left Ebenezer a few weeks ago, and you tag team preach, and you did a phenomenal job. How often do you all talk about sermon prep together? I know you don't tag team every Sunday,
right.
But Zatoria, do you ever help him or say,
I don't help him, but I will. You mean when we're preaching together, or
no,
just in general?
In general.
Oh, in general, yeah. Like if I'm working on a sermon, it's a lot of times I have to ask him different things if I'm struggling with something, or I'm like, God is telling me this, and how do you put it together? So he'll help me with that a lot. I probably get on his nerves. When I have to preach, I'll actually make sure that everything, because I don't want to just be a person that just gets up there and just say what I want to make sure that what I'm saying, it makes sense to he always says, from a child to an adult, anyone can understand it. So I always go to him for things like that. As far as him coming to me for sermons, only thing he'll ask me sometimes, because every single time he preaches, I write down in my Bible the scripture, and I write down the tag and the date and where he preached it. So he'll say, when the last time I preached from this text right here? That's about it. But as far as help as far as preaching, no, only when we have to preach together do we sit and work on sermons together. But I lean on him a lot from where he has so much experience, and he's as crazy as it sounds, my father in the ministry.
Yeah.
So I do go to him a lot. I do go to him a lot for that.
Did you face a lot of opposition when you begin to, you probably never moved from first lady to minister, you probably balanced both. Did you face a lot of push and pull from the pew?
I have to be honest with you. From here,
I want
from
you
the
to be.
pew, yeah. And it's strange, but it was such an easy transition.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. Because even before I was licensed to preach, I was doing a lot of speaking and ministering. So, because we have women's retreat in Ocean City, and I was bringing forth the word there.
Okay.
And I was teaching women's ministry, and so I think that it was kind of like an easy transition because I was already doing it, but I wasn't licensed to do it. So it pretty much worked hand in hand, I would say. The initial sermon just made it official. And then also, I believe that from where I was always assisting, our pastor, I believe that it just it was no shock to people. I believe it was no shock to people. So.
You have a family, you have sons, and they've pretty much grown up in Metompkin. Let's talk about personally, because this is Clergy Appreciation Month.
Yes.
And so we try to push taking care of your pastor getting rest. Working on a Bible study for next week, talking about pastoral care.
Yes.
What do you all do to help take yourself away from the hustle and bustle of ministry?
Well, I would say, one of the main things is we know when it's time to pull back. We know when it's time to take a break, and we know when it's time to take a rest. And we do it, Excuse me. Just last year, we took a sabbatical. The whole month of October, we didn't preach one Sunday. And it was good. It was good for the mental, psychological, the spiritual, and the whole man. And so we just know when to pull back. We know when it's time to, take breaks, take vacations, go away with the family, and just try to balance it. Try to balance it and know how much of yourself to give, and when it's just time to say, hey, we're tired. And when we're tired, we just have learned to take a break, and that's been real beneficial. And have the support of the congregation and open and honestly say, listen, we're getting ready to take a break. And here's the reason why.
Yeah.
So they respect that.
Yeah. Was it hard raising the boys and allowing them to be boys, to be kids in a traditional type church? Did you find it hard having to raise them in that?
We always reiterated to everyone, we're going to let our children be children.
Right.
We always, that was made clear. I wasn't going to force them to act the part. I wasn't going to force, the pews, their beliefs on our kids, because they have children that were allowed to be children. So we've always tried our best to make sure that they were able to still live their childhood, same way we did. So I do believe that to this day, that's why to this day they don't mind coming to worship with us, because it wasn't forced on them. It wasn't, we didn't they went to school dances, they went to prom, they did all the stuff that we were able to do.
Yeah.
So we made sure of that. That was important to us. That was important to us.
Now, you all have been together since teenage.
Yes.
Long
She
time.
said yes, quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little slow, didn't he, Bunting?
Yeah, it
Oh,
was
we've
slow
gone
on
on
that.
29 years, right?
That's marriage.
Right. Yeah.
29 years married, and next month, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
But we've been together,
Gotta get it right.
30-something.
Plus years, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
so
you all have really
Grown together?
grown together
Yeah.
You can just say it,
and
yeah.
grown in Christ together.
Yes.
Christ together. And,
Yes.
And I one of our main objectives was, coming to the church. We came here together. We'll stay together. If we leave, we're leaving together.
Lead together.
Yeah.
And so we've always lived by that motto.
Yeah,
And so, that has really helped us.
yeah.
That has really helped us a whole
A
lot.
lot.
I
Yes.
applaud, and I say this openly, I applaud Ricardo and Zatoria, and I can call them that
Yes.
Right.
because we're friends.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
How you all manage marriage and ministry some of us failed at that. But you all have set the example for what others should look at if they were looking for some example or a example. And I commend both of you for how you have allowed God to keep you intact while you serve God's people. That's so challenging now.
It is. It is.
Across the board,
It is.
I am a witness to that. It's a challenge.
It is.
And to see a couple that you've been together 30-some years, married 29 years, pastoring 16 years, and y'all seem like you're in love with each other.
Yes, I'm gonna keep them.
Yeah, she'll keep her.
But you know what? I think from the get-go, it was like that was something that was we set out and we said we knew what we wanted to happen, what we didn't want to happen. You know, and good counsel as well. I'm gonna be honest. We had good counsel to kind of guide us through this. And so we held on to it. It was always in our mind, like simple things that we were told. We made sure we stuck with it, you know, and we try to do ministry together. And we try to, like, it's not him just doing ministry. And I think that's been a big difference.
Right.
Even before I was a preacher,
We still did ministry
we did ministry together. You know, I tried to support him the best way I could. If he had to go somewhere, if it was 1 o'clock in the morning and somebody passed, I got out of my bed 1 o'clock in the morning and I went with my husband to go to the family, you know. So I think that makes it a big, that makes a huge difference when you do ministry together. No matter how tired I am, if I'm going to support them, I'm going to support them, you know, and it works both ways. So I think that's been the one of the biggest blessings that we do ministry together.
Yeah.
You know.
And we also, you know, I'm very transparent about that from the pulpit. And I've been that way from day one. Excuse me, I let everyone know, listen, any females that I meet with in my study, it will always be in the presence with my wife there. There are no meetings in my study with any female, closed door, you know, when I first came to this church, even to this day. And so everyone started to know that. So they would go get her to come and have, you know, to come, you know, and it has been a blessing. Nobody can say this. Nobody can assume this. My wife's right there with us. And so, like she said, when we go out, when I have to go somewhere, she's right there. She's always been right there. Because it's been that way before we came here.
Right.
And so it wasn't a struggle or it wasn't, you know, hey, stay home while I go do this, that, or the other for the church, because we've always done things together as a family and as a couple. So that's been a blessing. It hasn't been hard for me. It's just, you know, it would be abnormal if it wasn't that way, because that's just, you know, what we've always done. You know, are we perfect? No. But, you know, we try to do our best for him. And, you know, and that has helped us.
Bivocational. So many pastors now are bivocational pastors. Some are by choice, some are by force. Pastor Ricardo Poulson is by choice.
Right.
And I want to make that plain tonight, make that clear. How have you balanced a regular job Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday, and then also balance the responsibilities of pastoring? I want to talk about that before I get to being self-employed and being your own boss.
Well, one thing I've always done is, you know, I've always tried to balance the two. I try to always make sure one, you know, doesn't interfere with the other, to where, you know, it's a choice that has to be made between which one you're going to do. So when it comes to my ministry, I always, you know, try to know what's coming. And even when I don't know what's coming, as far as having to go see someone that's sick or someone passed, you know, then of course, you know, I have people that understand who I am outside of the job. They know I'm a pastor, so they know I get pulled in certain directions. And so, you know, hey, listen, certain situations, no, I just have to leave. You know, I may come back, but I have to leave right now because I have to tend to something. And, you know, when it comes to, you know, certain things, just trying to balance out my time, because I can't be everywhere. And so, you know, just knowing that I never want to have to be at church and have to be at work and then have the job say, well, you need to choose which one's more important.
Exactly.
I had that said to me one time. I had to preach somewhere, actually. I had a preaching engagement, and they were expecting me to be at work also. And so now you have a choice. So I got to go and preach at a black church. And I'm not going to have a black church looking to see me not show up. I'll deal with y'all on Monday, but I'm going to this church on Sunday. And so, I said that very early, that I never want to be in that situation again. So I always make sure that, they never conflict with one another. And so, we've been blessed to where they haven't, but it gets tiresome sometimes. But, by the grace of God, he's blessed us to where we've never had to come and slump through a sermon because we're too fatigued from work or vice versa. You wouldn't even tell sometimes I preached on a Sunday when I go to work on a Monday because I'm just as fresh and revived because I make sure I preach back to me. That's one thing that I would like to share is that always preach back to yourself because you can share and pour out to so many other people and leave empty yourself. And so I've learned that the sermon has to come back to me. I want to say this, I made it a priority, I don't know whether off subject or not, and I told my wife this, if no one else receives the sermon, I want to make sure I reach y'all. I want to make sure y'all get fed the word because, I don't want everyone else to get it.
Your family.
And my family get it.
I was going to ask you, who is y'all?
Right.
Y'all.
Well, I don't
talking
want
about your family.
My family. My wife, my sons, and my mother-in-law who came with us from day one. I don't want them to leave out empty and everyone else gets filled. So I wanted to make sure that, listen, we're going to get what God has given if no one else, meaning the family, if no one else gets it. And we've been like that probably since day one as well. And that has really helped us.
I see. Self-employed, stepped out on faith, running your own business. Talk about it. Tell us what you do.
Well, I am the owner of the Lady Z Boutique.
Okay.
Most of it is online and live. So I had
we see him on live.
Yeah, he's on live with me. That's the thing. We do everything together. That's the thing. We do everything together. So I help him with ministry and stuff, and so he'll in turn help me when it comes to my business. And I had to transition because when I was working with Virginia, the state of Virginia, I would have to leave quite often because it was early on in our ministry, and it just became a struggle. When administration changed, we prayed about it for a while. We were like, we have to do something because this isn't working for our lifestyle now. So we stepped out on faith, and now I'm able to, work my own schedule. I'm able to, do a lot of things from home, which makes it easier if I have to step out, if I have to take care of something else, if I have to close down for a few days because we're going to a conference or we're doing something else. So it's been a huge blessing to be able to be more flexible,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What would you say has been your greatest achievement since you came to New Metompkin?
I would say personally just seeing lives change, really right before your eyes. We came here, and this was one of the most stoic traditional churches known to everyone. And, to share the vision that we're going to shift from a traditional Baptist church into a non-traditional Baptist church and have it embraced by some of the most traditional people that you've ever seen in your life has been a blessing. To see those who were quiet and methodical and didn't say a word in worship being some of the loudest ones every Sunday. To see that transformation has just been a blessing. And I would just count it all joy to say that has been, more than brick and mortar or anything like that. Just seeing, the growth of the people and see the transformation right before your eyes to now we can come in here and freely worship God and, feel no restraint, feel no stale worship, cold feeling in worship. It is a atmosphere that's conducive to having a good time, and I'm grateful for that. Grateful, I really am.
Young couple in ministry comes to you and asks you for advice.
It's funny that you asked that.
Husband and wife team, either looking to pastor, just got into the pastorate, have watched you all, and they come to you. Ricardo, Zatoria, Pastor, First Lady, what can you say to me and my wife to help us not be like you, but to be blessed and have our marriage and our ministry be blessed like yours. What wisdom would you share?
It's funny that you said that because just yesterday, I met with a young lady, brand new leading lady. She's only been, her husband was just installed at a church probably less than a month. And we met and we had lunch. And my advice that I told her, actually several things, but the main thing I made sure I told her is to make sure that communication. If you don't communicate, first of all, with your husband, you're because you still matter. You still matter. You have to communicate with your husband your feelings and how you feel and how you're adjusting. And I told her, make sure you do that. That's one thing I would say. And make sure that you keep your marriage intact. Sometimes we go and we say, we're not talking about the church tonight.
Right.
we going to watch the bed.
Leave that alone.
Oh boy.
We're not answering call. We're not answering that tonight. We'll deal with it tomorrow. Long as there's nobody, on their deathbed, we're not answering tonight. So I told her, take time for you and your husband. Don't lose your marriage trying to make sure the church gets everything they need. I said, and communicate any concerns and stuff you have. Communicate with your husband because that's one thing he always made sure that I was okay because it was a big change, and he always would check in just to touch base, how are you overall? How do you feel about this? How are you spiritually? How are you emotionally? What's going on? So I told her communication and make sure that you and your husband, make sure that y'all stay on the same page because that's important because it's easy to get distracted with ministry and then y'all just become just partners in ministry. That's it. But the church is just a part of who we are.
Yeah.
That's not who we are. We do other things outside of the church. So I feel like that's one of the main things. Those two things that's what I would tell anybody. Any young couple, I would definitely, I believe that's important.
Yeah, oh yeah. And I would say to that pastor, make sure your wife feels as though she is, and know that she is the most important woman in that church, in your eyes. So make sure you always elevate her before the congregation in your eyes. So no other woman get anything in their head as it relates to how you feel about the women of the congregation. So I always make sure, and I've done this since the year 2000, before I preach any sermon, I always make sure I thank God for her and my family because those are the ones that God has entrusted me with. And so they always hear her name and hear me, thanking God and thanking God for her. And I would really say to that pastor, make sure she know how important she is. Make sure she really really understands that.
Yeah.
Because, so many things can creep into not only her mind, but your mind as well. So you want to always make sure she knows that. So I always try to let my wife know that. Always make sure that, we're true to self, meaning, stay inside of our own character. We don't have to be who others think we should be. We know who we are, not just for everyone else, but to each other. So we stay true to self. No one in this church knows me better than she does. So I don't have to put on, any type of show for her. She know who I am. And so, just be true to yourself. Make sure she realizes that she's loved by you and that, she's first in your eyes before any trustee, any deaconess, or anybody else. Your wife is first and foremost when it comes to, how you treat females in the church and how you view females in the church. And so that has really been something that I always try to keep, in the forefront, really. And so I would say just always, remember that.
Keep your home a place of peace. Goodness, keep your home a place of peace. Yeah. I always say, because he works and then dealing with people, congregation, and you know how that is. You got different personalities. So I try to make sure his home is his peace. I try not to bring any unnecessary, when he comes home, that's his place of peace. So that's something we try to strive for as well.
And discern each other. Discern the spirit of each other. There's going to come a challenge in the ministry for that pastor, but your wife has to be your rock. She has to be that main support. She has to be the one that knows, what it is that they're trying to do, but how you're trying to maneuver through it so it doesn't, kill the ministry or affect you negatively. So, you know, somebody has to be that voice of reason
Yeah.
to say, you know, okay, you might need to, you know, pull back a little bit. You might need to just, you know, maybe you shouldn't have said it like that. You know, I know how you meant it, but maybe you shouldn't have said it like that.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to listen. And I had to listen to her.
Both ways.
Yeah, you know, both ways. Because
Yeah.
if you're not willing to listen, you know, she's not going to let you run into a trap, right? So, you know, I mean, she doesn't have to let you know that in front of anybody. Those are private conversations at home, and then by the time you come back again, you're a little more polished to speak to this or handle that.
Yeah.
And so that'll really help you. Seriously, that'll really help you. It has helped me, especially newly coming into a situation where you just want everything to click, but it clicks a little slower because everybody's not trying to get on the same page at the same time. But, you know, just having that help me behind the scenes really helps out a lot.
Wow.
Really does.
What goals do you have for New Metompkin that you can share? I know there are certain things we don't share, but what do you feel God saying to you as you prepare to take the church into a new year, a new season? I mean, you've done so much.
Still
You
more
know,
work to
and
do.
still more work to do.
Yes.
I would just say, you know, one of the main things, this is Clergy Appreciation Month. So one of the main things that we have been really stressing is how to treat the pastor. And in this season, we're definitely teaching, you know, that, listen, you want to set your pastor up for longevity. You want to set your pastor up for transition and moments beyond their ministry here at the church. My main objective is to make this situation better for whoever comes behind me. Because, you know, the better the people are, then the better this ministry is going to be far when we're gone. And so what we're trying to teach is, you know, being excited about God, being excited about worship, and knowing how to treat the vessels God has entrusted to usher your soul to one day be with Him. And so just teaching that, and it's sometimes it's a little turbulence to teach it, but I would encourage all pastors, you have to teach it. How are folk going to know how to treat you if you don't teach them? If you're too scared to teach them how to treat you, you can't be upset when they mistreat you.
Yeah, that's true.
You see what I'm saying?
That's
so
true.
what we've done is, and what we're doing constantly herself as well, we're teaching them how to treat us, how to love us, and it's biblical. And we're showing them in the Word. And so we're just teaching, man, listen, how to set this church up, you know, for future success far beyond us, and even while we're here. You know, just being able to come in here and be treated. When I say treated, I mean, you know, not just treating you well because your gift is exciting them, but loving you more than loving the gift that's in you. You know, loving you far beyond the moment when they feel as though you can't holler like you used to holler.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want you loving the gift. I want you to love the person that God gave the gift. And that's what we're really stressing in this season, because we're at the moment of transition. We're 15 years in. Prayerfully, we'll get 15 more good years, but then that's 30. And folk look at you a lot differently
They do.
when you're 30 years in
They
versus
look
15.
at you different. They look at you differently at 20.
Right. And so
I'm a living witness.
Right. And so what we're trying to
That's
do
the law.
is we're trying to set not only, you know, the church up for future success, but also we're trying to set, you know, the position of pastor here at this church up for future success as well. And that's the honest to God truth.
I marvel at the wisdom that I've heard tonight. To hear wisdom from two young people, because all of us are young,
Right.
and to see the direction that they are allowing God to take them, and the direction that they are allowing God to take this church through them, speaks volumes. If you're in the Parksley area and you don't have a church home, you need to make your way to the church sitting on the side of Route 13. It's got the prettiest roof on Route 13, so you can't miss it. And I'm telling you, you need to find your way. If you're living in this area, you need to find your way here because things are happening here. I want to thank both of you
Thank you for coming.
for allowing us to spend time together. Thank you for your friendship and all the times you allowed me to come in and practice preaching.
Listen, man.
Practice preaching.
I want to say, man, you've really been a blessing to us.
Bless you.
You know, some of the most challenging times that we've gone through in ministry has been, you know, through and by loss. And, you know, you have been right there.
Bless
Not
you.
just there behind the scenes, but you've been the eulogist.
Bless you.
You know, God,
Bless
you know,
you.
we entrusted a lot of major situations into your hands.
Bless you.
And I want to say I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. You know that. And
Bless
so a lot of people don't, you know, get to see that part of it. But you've always been right there. And anytime I reach back to call on, hey, man, can you do my brother eulogy? Can you do my father's eulogy? You've been right there without any hesitation.
Yeah.
And so I want to say thank you, and I
Bless you.
appreciate you so much.
Bless you.
And I'll say that in private, and I'll say that openly.
Bless
And
you.
So
Bless
I
you.
appreciate you, man.
Any closing words, Minister Zatoria? I'm going to give it to you.
Uh-oh. Any closing words?
Any
I just want to
closing
say,
words? Anything you want to say? Maybe something encouraging. Maybe God is laying on your heart to say something encouraging to some female that may be going through something. That's something that God has seemingly called you to.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you the closing words tonight.
I just want to say this is something that's I'm in it, not just women, but in general. I want to get to a point where it's okay to lean on other people outside of the church. And what I mean when I say that, mental health, that's something that I've been pretty adamant about. I want to tell anyone that's going through something, it's okay to have Jesus and a therapist. It's okay to talk to the Lord and talk to a counselor.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
I definitely want to encourage people. And it's something about in the Black community, you can't go to a therapist unless you're crazy. But in church and as pastors and as people in leadership, you hear other people's burdens, other people's problems. You have to have somebody to go to so you're not keeping all that stuff in as well. So I just want to say, you know, seek help. Seek help if you need help, because I do believe that God can work and the counselor can work as well. So that's I feel like a lot of us as women these days, we're holding a lot in. We're trying to play the part. We're trying to wear the mask, wear the makeup, wear the jewelry, wear everything to make things look like they're okay. But inside, there's so many people who are struggling. They're hurting from stuff from 5 years, 20 years, 30 years. And I just want to say, seek help because it'll make you so much of a better person.
Okay.
And I feel like God has given us this life to live it, to be happy, to bless other people, and to just, you know, every day we wake up, it should be a blessing. Not every day you wake up and you're wondering why you're here. So find your purpose, get rid of that pain, and then just push through.
That's a
That's
sermon.
it. That's
Yes.
a walking sermon.
That's a sermon.
Yes.
That's a sermon.
Preach that
Yes.
That's a sermon. Listen, everybody, thank you so much.
Thank you
I'm
for
so
coming
proud
and
of you.
talking
Love
to
both
us.
of y'all. Thank
Love
you.
too.
This has been another edition of When Ebenezer Talks. I want to thank you so much. As I've said every week during the course of the month of October, this is Clergy Appreciation Month. If you are a member of a church, if you are affiliated with a church, find some tangible action, some tangible thing that you can give to the man and woman of God that's in your life, that's sowing into you, that's helping you grow spiritually. This is the month. You shouldn't just wait till October.
Right.
But since we're in the month of October and it's Clergy Appreciation Month, do something nice for your pastor. Don't even wait for the church to do it. Do something nice for your pastor. Let your pastor and his family know how much you appreciate them. This has been another edition of Ebenezer Talks. God bless you. God keep you is our prayer. Thank both Pastor Poulson, Lady Poulson. God bless you. Peace.